Hey YouTube, this is a quick video to talk about my experience with the Sennheiser HDV 820 headphone amplifier and desktop preamp. So I shared in another video that I've kind of been on a quest to find the perfect combination headphone amplifier and preamp to drive my KEF LS50s, these are the passive versions, and they're connected to a Crown XLS 2502 amp. And then I also have a Rel T7i sub connected to directly to the amplifier. And I think I found what I've been searching for all this time. So up until this point, I had gone through a Schiit Jotunheim. That particular one has the balance DAC in it. I then went to a Schiit Jotunheim with the multi-bit DAC. I tried a Felix Echo. I tried a Schiit Saga Plus. I even went so far as to bring my PS Audio BHK preamp in here, which wasn't really designed or intended for desktop use, but I was kind of desperate to find a really high quality preamp. At the time that I embarked on this search, I was listening to my speakers about 95% of the time and headphones about 5% of the time, which in the 5% of the time was more just out of necessity. You know, late at night, wife and kids are winding down for the night. And so it wasn't really appropriate for me to be playing my music real loud. And so I'd put on headphones out of necessity. But after having, number one, gotten some higher end headphones, and then number two, stepping up to a much higher quality headphone amp, I'm probably at about 80-20 now, where there are occasions where I just want to put on headphones because I enjoy the experience, which is kind of surprising to me. With regard to the preamp capabilities of this, I'd say this unit is super impressive. I am extremely impressed that this unit performs almost as good as my much more expensive PS Audio BHK preamp, but is far less expensive. Another thing I'll say is I notice virtually no difference when I switch between, there's a unbalanced, RCA input, and there's also XLR input. It's one of the first times that I don't notice really any difference swapping between those two connection types. Whereas with the Schiit Jotunheim, as another example, I definitely notice an improvement when I use the XLR inputs and then outputs back out to the amp, as well as much better performance when I use the 4-pin XLR instead of the 1/4-inch connection on there. So super impressed with this as a desktop preamp. It runs relatively cool. I'll also say with my BHK preamp, there was also a little bit of stress that came along with it because it has tubes in it. And so, ideally you'd want to turn it off when it's not in use to not use up the life of the tubes unnecessarily. That stress is completely gone with this unit. Runs, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but it runs relatively cool. And it's just really well built. Super impressed with this as a preamp. I'll talk about the headphone amp capabilities here in just a sec, but I did want to mention the DAC capabilities. In my opinion, I do not recommend this as, the DAC is not the strong part of this unit. I tried the USB connection and I actually heard some noise come through my headphones. So I disconnected that and I ran a optical connection, which eliminated the noise, but just the DAC capabilities in here are mediocre to me. So I actually run a PS Audio direct stream DAC here under my desk, and run that. Currently I'm actually running it RCA, but I've also tried it with the XLRs, and just super impressed with it as a preamp. And going into now the headphone amp portion. So I had posted another video where I did a comparison of the HD820s and the Z1Rs, and I ended up getting rid of the Z1Rs. One of the commenters in that video said, I think you're gonna miss those Z1Rs, and that person was absolutely right. When I bought this unit, I really started to wonder if it would change my perspective on the Z1Rs, and it did. So I bought another pair. I've been running them, testing them, and this amp has kind of tilted the scales a little bit more in favor of the Z1Rs for certain occasions. I think this unit emphasizes a little bit the bass region and the lower mid-range region, which probably is beneficial for the HD 800 series headphones, because they're known to have a tendency toward the brighter end of the spectrum. Again, it's all dependent on equipment pairing, but this amp fixes that on these headphones, where it kind of cleans up the deficiencies on these HD 820s. But it's just magic. When I connect these to this headphone amplifier, it is a really good experience. So now I have kind of a dilemma if I'm going to end up keeping both, because again, there are things that the HD 820s still do better than the Z1Rs, in my opinion. For example, there are times where I'll be listening to my HD 820s and I'll be sitting here at my desk working, and I'll hear something that makes me wonder, kind of have to double check if my speakers are on, because of how these perform. There are times when this can make you think that you're sitting in a room listening to two speakers. And I also find these to be just slightly more comfortable than the Z1Rs. I'm sure that part is more of a preference thing. Soundstage is definitely wider on the HD 820s, but with all that said, the scales have tipped a little bit in favor of the Z1Rs. So the moral of the story, what I've learned through this experience, is that it just really comes down to equipment pairing when you get at this level of headphones. I'm sure that there have been headphones and things that I've tested in the past where I may not have had the right synergistic equipment connected behind, and I formed an opinion of that thing because of whatever was connected higher up in the chain. Another thing I wanted to mention that just came to mind is, because these HD 820s are a little bit more resolving, a little bit more revealing, they are also more sensitive to the files that, the music files that you're listening to. So for example, there are times when I'll listen to Spotify with these and some track will come on that's not recorded well, and I can't listen to it. It's hard to listen to, and I'll have to switch the song because it gets irritating. I don't have that experience as much with the Z1Rs. The Z1Rs are, in my opinion, more forgiving about the file types. So I found that kind of interesting. As I mentioned, the HD 820s are a little bit more comfortable to me, but that's not to say that these are uncomfortable. The Z1Rs are very comfortable, but you get to a point about the 45-minute hour mark where I have to take them off for a few minutes, maybe walk away from my desk and then come back and put them on. Whereas the HD 820s, I can go a long time with those on my head and super, super comfortable. Let me see if there was anything else I want to mention. I've also been trying out these Focal Elex, which I'm really, really impressed with these as well. I think I'm going to probably continue my search for a good open back, hopefully somewhere in the neighborhood of the same price range. I've also tried out the HE4XX, and to me, I think these definitely trump those, but they're far more expensive. The issue I'm having with the Elex is comfort-wise, they're just for my head and my ears, they're not quite as comfortable as these other two. So I'll post a separate video. I think I definitely want to post another video updating folks on the comparison between these two. But yeah, the main thing for this video was this HDV 820. So let me know if you have any comments any questions in the comment section. Again, super, super impressed with this unit as a desktop preamp. Super happy with it as a headphone amp. Don't buy it for the DAC, in my opinion, though, and try to get a sale on it because they are too expensive, in my opinion. Hope that helps. Thanks.